Welcome to Safe Harbour, a conversational, unscripted podcast where myself, Phil Askew, and Jamie Robbins, two practicing coaches in the UK, explore men's mental health in modern times. On each episode, we have frank and open conversations and leave you with valuable tips and tools to try out yourself, to regain balance, get clarity, and find real fulfillment in your lives. Enjoy the show. All right, Jamie, so we are back in the studio with season 2 of Safe Harbour.
Yeah, second album. It's quite exciting. And I'm feeling slightly nervous. I noticed I've got little butterflies in my belly because we've had so much feedback from season 1. And I just I feel like pressure to deliver that second album. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's I think maybe that's one of the reasons why we have not delayed, but one of the reasons why we didn't jump into season 2 immediately after season 1, did we?
No, we sort of blurted it out, didn't we? And then I went into other projects, you went into other projects, and we always had this intention of bringing it back, didn't we? Like season 2 would always be something that we would do, but it's felt like we've just let that percolate, and some of the feedback's been incredible. And the when are you going to do a second season has just been building and building and building, hasn't it? With so many messages, haven't we?
Mm, yeah. I think having a podcast is a really fantastic way of sharing your message in the world because it's evergreen and it just stays out there indefinitely. And so if you produce something that you're proud of, then and resonates with people, you're always going to get people coming back to you and picking up on it and saying what they enjoyed about it a while later. And I think that's probably for me has been the inspiration for us to get going on this again. Is the fact, as you say, we've had some really great feedback, and every time I mention Safe Harbor on Facebook or Instagram or something like that, I'll have someone say, "Oh, when's season 2 happening?" So yeah, it was the impetus to get going again, wasn't it? That we've had a bunch of different people asking how it's going.
Yeah, and people telling me anyway, like which one their favorite episode was, things like that. It really blew my mind. Like I really enjoyed the one you did around addiction. I thought that was really powerful, and the level of vulnerability between both of you on that. It was, and some of the tenderness and the humor and the all of that stuff. I guess that's why I'm feeling slightly nervous because I'm really wanting season 2 to be as good, if not better, than season 1. It's just a natural thing, I guess, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah, and I think we were modeling it just us being us in conversation, so obviously it was Safe Harbor was like a pandemic pop-up podcast, I like to say, which was something that we birthed because we were struggling in the pandemic and we were checking in with each other with WhatsApp, and that's continued on. We still do that every day, don't we? We check in with each other and see how each other's doing, maybe check in the morning, check out in the evening. And I've just found that to be a real staple of my everyday. Like I absolutely look forward to seeing one of your messages there waiting to be listened to. And we sometimes go out to like 14, 15 minutes, which sounds bonkers, but it never seems like a hardship listening to your messages. I always enjoy them.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing about the podcast is I've listened back to the season 1s again and again and again and again because I've got my favorites as well. I've just forgot the fact that it's me and you, and I've just found them really helpful. We're talking about powerful questions, and the one that we did around addiction, they're really helpful. And just to listen back to them again and just laughing at some of the little situations that we found ourselves in. Yeah, it's great. So just to sort of tell the people that are listening, what's season 2 gonna look like?
Yeah, well, I think that was one of the reasons that we sort of we didn't jump into season 2 because we had a bit of a format for the first one, completely sort of transparently. We thought about some titles and then we wouldn't pre-plan it, we wouldn't have a script or anything, but we would jump in and look at the title and then have a real-time conversation about it. Some of the later ones we looked at, Why Don't Men Talk and things like that, which is
Yeah.
my personal favorite one. We sort of really explored that and unpacked it as we were talking about it. And then actually what Jamie did, he sent me a message like the other day and all of a sudden it clicked into place. It was really interesting. Is that there are some aspects of mindfulness that suddenly became really interesting when I read them, and I thought, yeah, these will make really great titles for season 2. Do you want to say a bit more about those?
Well,
Just
yeah, they're kinda called the principles of practice. The principles of practice, and there are 9 of them, and I'm sure there are variations on this, but, with like non-judgment, non-striving, gratitude, generosity, and these are all principles of practice that in the practice of mindfulness we can dive deeper into each one. And today we're going to explore non-judgment, but these are all in themselves really fascinating conversations that I've heard on other podcasts, and well, not heard specifically on someone who's done the same thing as us, but talking about non-judgment, the different levels of non-judgment, like judgment on yourself, judgment on others, judgment on situation. And so when I read that and I thought about it, I thought, wow, there it is. Let's dive in, because that's 9 episodes.
It's really interesting. The titles of the show are almost like thresholds in to both exploring what we believe about these things and what each other believes about these things as well. So some of them might be challenging for me and some of them might be challenging for Jamie, but we're going to sort of just talk about them and see what happens and see where we go with it.
Maybe some how-tos might come out of it, like some of the things that I that I use, tools that I use in an approach around non-judgment or around trust. I've been doing this, if you want to call it personal development work, inverted commas, for like my journey's been the last 15 years. So there's some there's some great stuff out there that I'd really like to pass on to our listeners. Stuff that helps me daily to be able to catch myself when I notice life's getting a bit stretched or a bit tight, or I'm feeling overwhelmed, and I'm sure that that's going to come up today in non-judgment, because that's a juicy one. you know,
So
judging.
just a bit of a disclaimer is the fact that neither Jamie nor I are fixed or perfect or, yeah. We're kind of close to it now and again, but or at least we think we are, but we're not. It's an ongoing upward spiral of personal development and growth, and life throws things at you all the time where it's sort of grist for the mill and an opportunity to learn even more. So we're not preaching at you by any means. We're just having an open conversation. And we do have a lot of tools and things that we've gathered along the way and experiences. We'd be crazy to park that and not tell you about those. So if things come up like that, I think these would be really great takeaways for the listener as well, won't they?
Absolutely, yeah. This is not a preaching podcast. I've not got my shit sorted out, and I've been doing this a long time. I'm here for the ride, and we're gonna have some fun, aren't we?
Okay, so let's just jump in then, Jamie. So non-judging. So we don't profess to be mindfulness teachers because we're not qualified in mindfulness. We've done some mindfulness training. We've listened to fantastic mindfulness teachers, and we utilize some of it in our own lives for ourselves and also for our clients as well. So we're not going to teach you about mindfulness per se, but we're going to talk about the mindfulness attitudes. I think they're called the 9 attitudes. And so this very first one that we're going to be looking at is non-judging. And of course, one of our intentions is to jump into our own lives and then see where non-judging or whatever attitude we're talking about comes up and what we've experienced and maybe what we've learned from it as well. Do you want to
Yeah.
kick us off, Jamie, with this one?
Yeah, why not? I mean, the way I see non-judgment, I see it as breaking it down into 3 parts. So, like I just said, judging self, judging others, and judging situations. And I notice I can get really hooked very quickly on any of those. And I guess what I'd like to explore today is how can we unhijack ourselves from those situations where we're judging ourselves, situations, or others. It's like in coaching, it's like the awareness. Once there's an awareness of I'm doing it, that's 75% towards not doing it anymore. Because by shining a light on it, go, oh my God, I've just judged that guy for whatever. I've done it again, haven't I? And I once counted, because I committed to doing non-judgment, practicing non-judgment for a whole week, because I thought I'm going to start with how much do I judge others from Monday to Friday. Oh my God. Every 5 minutes, I'm judging someone's driving. I'm judging on how slow someone's walking around Waitrose. I'm judging someone for what they're wearing. Oh my God, what's that? Look what he's wearing. Does he realize how stupid he looks? Oh my God, stop, judging again. It was non-stop, constant, and it was driving me around the bend. Do you ever get that?
Oh yeah,
Judging.
all the time. Yeah, I notice that when I'm feeling insecure, I'm a complete judgment monster, towards others.
Right.
I notice that I can look online and I can scroll down the Facebook feed or whatever feed, and if I wake up and I'm in a insecure mood or I'm feeling unsafe or something or unclear,
Yeah.
I will judge pretty much anyone who's doing anything vaguely similar to what I do and say, "Oh yeah, we'd all like that. Look at him." And I realize I'm really quite, prolific with it. Yeah. It doesn't make me feel good in any way either. I realize that too. It's really energy sapping, isn't it, to judge?
Well, it makes you feel worse, doesn't it?
It makes me feel angry and jealous, and it's almost like a viper's nest. You sort of you go to judgment, and then you take the lid off, and then you notice there's a whole barrel load of snakes in there, and it's just like, yeah, it's all poisonous. It's all toxic, I think.
And social media obviously is the big one, isn't it? Because social media, Facebook, Instagram, all of that stuff. Even just scrolling through YouTube, I found myself the other day feeling really trapped and like, oh, I just don't want to be whatever it was doing this anymore. And I started watching a guy who was living out in the middle of nowhere in Canada, building a log cabin for 3 years. And I'm like, yeah, good for you, mate. Like, you've got that much time on your hands and money and time. But
Mm,
I watched it. I watched it for like an hour and a half while I was doing some other work. It's just this guy in like slow mo in time lapse.
mm.
And I started judging him, going, "F you, mate. How come you can do that and I can't?" And then it started to make me really angry, and it just perpetuated, made it actually made my
Mm.
situation worse. So, and I caught myself, and then flicked over and watched Motorhead instead.
But I think that's really fascinating what you just said, because if we're close to that subject, and if we're not doing something that we see demonstrated out, for me personally, I find I get really jealous. Yeah. It's kind of
Yeah,
like, oh, look at him. You think he is? And then
yeah.
the judgment comes in like, well, I wouldn't do it that way. Wouldn't do it this way. I'd maybe do it different. But, for me, because I love photography and filmmaking, it's kind of like I'll look at a video on YouTube, as you say, and I think, wow, that's really evocative. That's really cool. Yeah, amazing camera work on that. And then I sort of hold them in high regard, but then some other ones I notice it depends on what sort of frame of mind I'm approaching it from. If I'm pissed off or if I'm feeling unseen or unheard, then I'll go to a place of judgment. And it's like, well, yeah, look at the way you did that. You could have done that a little bit better. Yeah, it's all right, but it's over the top. I turn into a
Yeah.
bitch, for want of a better word, a
Send
complete
him an
bitch.
email. Do you ever
Send
do
him
that?
in. Do
Yeah.
what?
Send him an email.
I've not gone that far, no. What if you think about it, like what you just said there has reminded me, and it makes me think of trolls. If you have the opportunity to anonymously comment on people's content, depending on your frame of mind, then absolutely it's all about judging, isn't it? It's all about feeling insecure, I think.
Yeah, well, that's what Twitter is. Twitter is, isn't it? I've never got into Twitter, but that's basically what that is, isn't it? It's an online forum for people to just have a go at one another.
Yeah, I think a lot of people leave Twitter or have left or I've heard them talk about Twitter and they say it just turns into a complete bitch fest in that way. It's
Yeah,
just people ranting, people moaning, and
yeah.
because you have the sort of anonymous ability to do that, I think it empowers judgment. It really empowers. It gives you the platform where you're a faceless individual who can comment and say whatever you want, and maybe you go into those darkest recesses and splurge stuff you wouldn't say face to face to someone.
So how do you, I'll give my bit first. How do I unhook myself from that happening? So I did this thing, I did this training where you literally catch yourself doing it. I go, you really got to be aware of it, right? You got to notice, I've just done that thing again. And my kids are great because I told my kids and my teenage girls that I was doing it. So I'd be driving down the street and I go, look at that plonker there with the look at, and we go, dad, you've just done judging again. Oh, yeah, sorry, I've done it. So then I'd have this little voice in my head go, you've just done it. And then I rewind it, play it back, and I send that guy some empathy. So I take away the judgment and I send him empathy. I go, it's not his fault. He's got mustard colored trousers. It's probably his upper class upbringing because only people are going to the whole thing, you know. He's wearing mustard trousers. Must be a multimillionaire because only multimillionaire wear mustard trousers. Have some empathy for his situation. He's a multimillionaire. It's not his fault. So I go to that it's not his fault place, and that unhooks me and has me feel put my hand on my chest and my little belly on my little Jamie and go, "It's all right, Jamie. It's okay. It's all right, mate. Don't get hooked. You don't need to go there. Drive into Waitrose and get your shopping. Let the dude with the mustard trousers go and do his thing, deep breath, and I'm out of there."
Yeah, it's great. It's like we call that recovery, don't we? How do we recover from being triggered, you know? And
Mm,
what you had me think about there when you were describing that is I noticed that a lot of my judgment comes from my upbringing, and I think a lot of it does. It's almost like, here, son, here are the rules for living as an adult in the world. Okay. And I think it depends on the worldview and the lens that my parents were looking through. And my dad was very not anti establishment, anti wealth and
mm.
abundance and good fortune, actually. So he was very judgmental, exactly as you just said, towards those who appear to be doing really well for themselves. It's almost like life was fair to them, but it hasn't been fair to him. Why should they enjoy it? Or they must be not very nice people, or they must be kind of less than, you know? So I noticed that the dialogue around me growing up was very much kind of pointed towards that. Lots of judgment towards affluence and towards those people who landed on their feet, who had some sort of security and finance. And I think it was all about security for him and insecurity, actually. And that's where that judgment was coming from. But I learned that growing up, as in, like, that was his training for me as an adult. You can't help it, you absorb it, don't you? I had to do a lot of work. When you used to talk about recovery, I had to do a lot of work. And I still catch myself now, if I'm in areas like Kensington and Chelsea, and my partner will back this up, but, "Oh, yeah, look at you in your Maserati." We'd all like one of them, wouldn't
We
we?
all like one of them, haven't we?
Wouldn't
Yeah.
we? But then I think, would I? Second
Exactly. Yeah, you
thought,
can't, drive around in a Maserati with a silver spoon stuck up your ass, can you?
I don't know, it'd be uncomfortable, wouldn't it? You'd need a seat modification. But yeah, that's definitely, I think we have areas where we are judgmental, and I noticed that the root of it, I'm not blaming my parents. It's what we grew up in, isn't it? The environment we grew up in. Do you get a sense, me just saying that, do you get a sense of your upbringing flavored your judgment or gave you sort of the fuel?
Absolutely. Well, I just did it. I'm just catching myself like it with a silver spoon up his ass comment. I just heard myself do it. That's my dad. And my dad just went, "Oh yeah, it's all right for you, mate. Silver spoon up your ass. Yeah. Well, have you ever worked for a living? Let me show me your hands. Let me see those soft hands. Yeah. That working class have to work hard for a living is definitely ingrained in there somewhere. It's all right for you, isn't it? You know.
Yeah. So there's jealousy maybe in that non-judgment or in the judgment, isn't there? So yeah, it's a really interesting one. Judge. Like, who am I to judge? I suppose it puts us back in power when I think about judgment. It I put myself in a position of authority to be able to judge whether this person is doing the right thing or not. And it makes me feel back in control. And I think it's about not having control in some circumstances that has me feel insecure.
Yeah. Insecure and out of control. And they're big, aren't they? They're two big things. They destabilize how we operate in the world. Because if I don't feel secure, and the other thing I just said that I've forgotten already, then we feel wobbly, and then that affects how we interact with our friends and our relatives. And
Mm,
so, and what we're talking about now is judgment of circumstance and situation, isn't it? So we've almost moved away from judging others to judging circumstances. Oh, it's all right for him,
mm,
it's life. The grass is greener on the other side thing. I had a really great, if I can remember it, a great little thing about the grass is greener. It says, the grass is greener on the other side because you're always watering their fucking garden. Why don't you water your own garden? you know,
no, I love
and
that.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Stop watering their garden. That's why their grass is greener.
Mm.
Get your watering can and have a little go in your garden that's dead.
And that's such a big thing, isn't it? It's like about doing your own work, doing your self work. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a metaphor for that. If you're tending to their garden with your attention, then you're gonna notice all those things over there because your attention is there. But if you're not
Yeah.
paying any attention on the judging that you're perpetuating internally, or rather, on their circumstances or what they happen to have going on in their life, then you've only got yourself to blame, really.
Absolutely, and we don't know what's going off in their garden. They might be having arguments every day about what tone of green their grass is.
Might be some bodies buried as well. Who knows?
Yeah,
But that was really interesting, and it feels like, talking about circumstances and talking about others and judging them. is very easy to catch ourselves doing that. Or rather, if we make a mindful choice, it's easy to catch ourselves doing that and then have some mechanism for recovery around that. But you were then also talking about, which I'm really curious about, the judging of self,
Mm.
like how do you see that showing up in your life every day?
Oh my god, every 5 minutes I'm doing it, and I'm a coach, and I'm helping guys all the time not to do that, or to really, shine a light on when they're doing it, and I'm still doing it every day, and it's a bit like trying to, like when you talk about meditation, and some people, have this idea that meditation is about getting rid of thoughts. You can't get rid of any of the thoughts. You're just gonna you can't stop thoughts from coming. It's about how do we manage those thoughts, like which waves do we choose to surf? Those self-judgments for me are coming constantly, all the time, yeah. I'm not a good enough dad, I'm not making enough money, I should be doing more by now, I'm 47, why haven't you got this sorted out, Oh man, it's relentless. And especially as a man, if we're talking about men stuff here, there is so much out there. There is so much toxic information that goes, by the time you're this age, you should have this sorted out. By the time it's normally in decades, isn't it? I get guys come into and they go, oh God, my God, I need to get my shit sorted out. I'm 30 next year. And I don't know why I'm laughing, but because I did the same thing. And then they go, oh my God, I'm 40 soon. I really haven't got my shit sorted out. I'm nearly 40, and then they look at people in their Maseratis who've got two homes and a home in the Cotswolds where I live, men in their 40s come and buy second homes here, and I'm 47 and go, I'm behind. Why aren't I'm nearly 50. I'm doing the panic. I'm nearly 50 and I haven't done this. So, oh man, it's incessant. It's nonstop.
Mhm. I was chatting to a friend briefly last night via Messenger, and he said, "Oh man, I'm coming up to 40." Like, so he's in his
Oh,
30s, and he said, "I can't help but thinking I've wasted my life." I'm like, "Mate, you're only
wow.
30. Come on." I'm 50 now, so 20 years ahead of him, and you're always going to have those thoughts. I think uh, it also reminds me of like, so the founders and the entrepreneurs that I work with, if they start making a success of what they're doing, then imposter syndrome can kick in. And of course, that's thrown around a lot, imposter syndrome. But actually, I think ultimately, underneath all of that is the vulnerability around admitting that you feel out of place. Like, who am I to do this? Like, who are you to do this? More importantly, like,
Mhm.
it won't be who am I to do this? It'll be that inner critic, won't it? The judge, which comes in and says, people going to spot you. They're going to see that you're a fake. They're going to see you're not up to this task. You started this business, you got an incredible service and product, and you're going to be found out. So you better start acting in a way where you protect yourself and you start putting up those walls around you, and it very often leads to that place of isolation and overwhelm and fear.
It all leads to overwhelm, whichever route, doesn't it? Like if I'm not good enough or I'm going to get found out, they both, the end destination is overwhelm. Really.
Mm.
And also the one that comes up for me is like if when I've ever made a lot of money or I've done something really successful, I feel like I've just stuck myself on a big shiny tower with a big massive spotlight on me going, look at me, I'm doing really well. And that working class voice in me goes, get down off of there, stop showing off, stop being so bright, stop being so extrovert, stop being so blah, blah, whatever it is. And then, oh, I better get down, climb down, make myself a little bit smaller. And then, so this like this stretching in and out thing happens where I'm either judging myself or afraid of being judged by others. That's another one, right? Afraid of being judged by others for being too shiny or being too dot, dot, dot.
Yeah, and I think that's incredibly vulnerable to admit that, isn't it? Like, I'm worried about what people think of me, but I think underpinning it all, it's depending on who you are. I think if you're particularly sensitive, that's a real fear, isn't it? Like, what will people
Yeah.
think of me? If you've been burnt in the past, like in a difficult relationship or fired from a job you really loved and it came out of the blue, it sideswiped you, then you're so fearful of being judged about your capacity or your ability. You don't want that happening again. So sometimes I've had clients sometimes where they've acted in really sort of outwardly demonstrative ways or really sort of like whoa, boisterous ways because they're so vulnerable. They've gone the opposite way. They've protected themselves, like building a shell around them before anyone gets even a chance of poking holes at them.
They've got a trauma from it happening before. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. And it's kind of like we build up the barriers, and so we then start to amplify the voice of that inner judge. And his recommendation, or her recommendation, is that we build up a wall around us. We protect ourselves because we don't want that happening again because it was painful.
Yeah, snip that off like a pair of scissors. Snip that off. I won't do that again. Snip that off. I won't do that again. Until then, just become this appropriate version of yourself, which is just small and skinny and fits in a nice, clean box.
Or maybe go the other way and be a complete tyrant. Be
Yeah.
a boss, which actually could well have a lot of empathy, a lot of presence, a lot of incredible leadership skills, emotional intelligence. They've decided that they're going to kind of cordon it all off, exactly as you say, snip off those parts because they don't serve, or they leave you open to being attacked.
So this reminds me of a situation that happened recently. An example. Examples are good because they kind of give a real life example of what we're trying to talk about. So one thing that comes up for me here is we don't ever know what someone else has been going through that day, right? So if you come into contact with someone and they absolutely bark at you and then you retaliate back, we have no idea what we're all going through as we're walking around in this world. We're all walking around wounded. Everyone's got their traumas. You only got to go on a weekend retreat and hear stories of people's lives and hear what they've been going through this year or yesterday. But we all put on this mask, this pretense that, everything's okay. How you doing, mate? Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm good. Something horrible could have happened yesterday. Something really traumatic, a parent die or whatever, something really horrible. I was driving the other day this is an example of how I was able to sort of bring some of that awareness and drop into a space. So I was in my car, coming up to a roundabout, and a guy walked out in front of the car to my left. So I didn't see him. I was only crawling along, going at snail's pace. And he walked out in front of me. I stamped on my brakes, tiny speed, and he threw his arms up in the air. He was maybe early 60s. Did you not effing see me? You effing idiot. Like that. And his dog sort of pulling him away. And he went up onto the curb. And in that moment, I thought, I can either wind the window down and go for him. And then I thought, what has had him react in that way? What's happened to him today to have him react in that way? And I paused in a split second and I put my window down and I leant out the window. I went, "Hey, mate, I'm really sorry I scared you." And he turned around and he went, "Yeah, that's all right, mate. No worries. Sorry I shouted." And he carried on walking.
Mm.
And it just diffused it in a second. I could have gone, "F you, mate." But I thought it was such a beautiful moment that he just sort of walked away, and I was curious. I thought, I wonder what he was thinking then. I wonder what his thought process was after that, like, wow, he just
Yeah.
apologized.
It probably took him by surprise. It's not something you get
Yeah.
traditionally, is it?
No. And so what I did is I replaced anger with empathy. And that's my kind of go-to now. And there's a massive capital letters if I have the capacity to, in that moment, I can do it. Normally, it needs a bit of time to come back to it. But if you can do it, if you can catch yourself in a supermarket or whatever your situation is, for that split second, go to a place of empathy. And another good one is to imagine the person who's losing their temper at you. Imagine they're a little boy or a little girl shouting at you, and see them as a child. That really helps as well, because you can't shout back at a child or go mad at a child. It's like, see the hurt little person losing their temper.
That's cool. Amazing. So thank you for joining me and Jamie on Safe Harbour today. We hope you found the conversation and tips helpful. And if you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It goes a heck of a long way to helping us reach more people who could benefit from our ramblings. And a quick favor, please share this episode with 2 friends. There's nothing like a good old word of mouth recommendation. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with another episode.